Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today's story is nothing less than a geopolitical earthquake shaking the entire Russian command structure, the Ukrainian frontline strategy, and even the global military balance. What has just happened to the Crimea Bridge is not just another strike, not just another explosion, and not just another military operation. It is something that exposes cracks inside Russia, weaknesses the Kremlin tried to hide, and fears that Moscow never wanted the world to see. The Crimea Bridge, the structure Russia swore was unbreakable, the engineering marvel they claimed could withstand any attack, has once again been taken out in a strike so precise, so destructive, and so humiliating for Moscow that even pro-Russian media cannot hide the truth this time. Ukraine has managed, despite all odds, to push through Russian defenses, confuse Russian radar, overwhelm electronic warfare, and strike at the single most symbolic and strategically critical structure Russia controls, and the aftermath is pure chaos across all of Crimea. This latest attack didn't just damage a portion of the bridge. It caused total structural collapse on one entire span. Videos circulating online show tilted pillars burning metal, collapsed railway sections, and vehicles thrown off the edges. But what makes this attack even more astonishing is how meticulously timed and technologically impressive it was. Ukrainian forces reportedly executed a multi-wave operation with drones, sea drones, and decoy systems before the main strike hit. Several Russian analysts admit privately that the attack was unstoppable once the first wave broke through the air defense layer. Inside Crimea, panic spread instantly, traffic halted, military convoys froze in place. Even Russian soldiers guarding the bridge were seen running, knowing the secondary blasts could follow. Some residents near the coastline reported shockwaves that rattled windows miles away. The symbolism of this moment is massive. The bridge was supposed to be Russia's pride, Putin's personal project, and the physical link between occupied Crimea and mainland Russia. Now it has collapsed again in front of the entire world. Ukraine chose this moment carefully. Russia is stretched in Pokrovsk, struggling near Avdiivka, losing ground around Robotyne, and trying to move troops across multiple fronts. Hitting the bridge now creates a supply nightmare for Moscow. Fuel shipments slow down, ammunition routes are disrupted. Fresh troops cannot arrive quickly. Even military medical evacuations become complicated, as Russia now depends mainly on the long land route through Mariupol and Melitopol, and that area is under constant Ukrainian drone and artillery pressure. Western analysts say this is one of the smartest timing strategies Ukraine has executed in the entire war. Russia was preparing new offensives, moving artillery to the south, and planning to resupply Crimea for winter operations. With one massive strike, Ukraine has shattered that momentum. Even Russia's propaganda channels are struggling to find words, switching between blaming NATO, blaming internal sabotage, and even blaming technical issues. The political humiliation for Putin is huge. Every time the Crimea Bridge is hit, it chips away at the myth of Russian control over occupied territory. After the previous attacks, the Kremlin promised iron-clad defenses and impenetrable protection. But now the world sees the truth. The bridge is vulnerable, Russia's defenses are weak, and Ukraine can strike anytime, anywhere. The fear inside the Kremlin is real. Elite circles are whispering that Crimea may not be sustainable long term. Recently leaked discussions suggest that even Russian generals are worried about the peninsula turning into a supply trap, a place where thousands of Russian troops could end up cut off, starved of resources, and forced to surrender or retreat. This bridge collapse accelerates that possibility dramatically. Let's talk about the scale of damage. Satellite images show a complete break in the roadway, meaning vehicles cannot cross. The railway section, crucial for transporting heavy weapons, appears twisted and unusable. Repair teams cannot even begin work because Ukrainian drones still watch the area, threatening follow-up strikes. Russian engineers say it could take months before any meaningful repairs are done. And that's if Ukraine does not strike again. And trust me, Ukraine will. This war has shown that Ukraine attacks strategically to maximize pressure. Every time Russia tries to rebuild the bridge, Ukraine studies the new structure, tests new drones, and finds a new weak point. This time, analysts believe Ukraine used a combined sea, surface, and airborne drone tactic, likely coordinated with satellite targeting. It's smart, efficient, and devastating, but the collapse has deeper effects too. Russian civilians trying to escape Crimea for safety have nowhere to go. Long queues of cars stretch for kilometers as people try to flee via ferries, which cannot keep up with demand. Russian soldiers stationed in southern Ukraine are frustrated, confused, and increasingly fearful. Logistics officers warn of shortages in fuel, food, ammunition, and spare parts. All because one bridge, the one Russia claimed would never fall, has fallen again. What Ukraine achieved is not just physical destruction. It is psychological warfare at its finest. The message is loud and clear. Crimea is not safe. Russian control is not permanent. And Ukrainian intelligence is always several steps ahead. This boosts Ukrainian morale dramatically. Troops on the front line say the strike gives them new energy, new confidence, and new belief that liberation is possible, even if things look difficult on some fronts. International reaction is equally powerful. NATO nations praise the precision. Many Western intelligence officials say privately that this strike proves Ukraine is entering a new phase of technological dominance in drone warfare. Countries like the UK, US, and France are now considering sending even more long-range systems to accelerate Russian collapse in Crimea. And Putin, his reaction is exactly what you'd expect: enraged, humiliated, and scrambling. Emergency meetings inside the Kremlin lasted through the night. Reports claim Putin demanded immediate retaliatory strikes, but generals warned him they lacked the capability to respond meaningfully. Some insiders say Putin lashed out at advisors, accusing them of failing to protect Crimea. This is the kind of pressure that causes cracks inside authoritarian regimes. Rival factions inside Moscow are now pointing fingers, blaming each other, and trying to avoid responsibility. When morale breaks among elites, collapse begins from the inside, slowly at first, then suddenly. Make no mistake, the destruction of the Crimea Bridge is not just a military victory for Ukraine. It is a symbol that the war is changing direction again. Russia wanted to show strength. Instead, it exposed weakness. Ukraine wanted to show resilience. Instead, it achieved a historic moment that will be remembered long after this war ends. The collapse marks a turning point, a moment where Russia realizes the cost of occupation, Ukraine realizes the power of innovation, and the world realizes this war is far from over. And as long as that bridge remains broken, Russia's grip on Crimea weakens day by day, supplies dry up. Troops lose confidence. Civilians panic. The psychological blow grows, and Ukraine gets closer to reclaiming what was stolen. Stay tuned because the next weeks will show how deeply this strike shakes Moscow, and how Ukraine plans its next move.